It was a quiet morning, the kind that felt so ordinary it almost disappeared into the background of memory. The sun had barely risen over the rooftops when 12-year-old Daniel Harris stepped out of his front door, his backpack hanging loosely over one shoulder. Inside the house, the faint clatter of dishes echoed from the kitchen where his mother was finishing up breakfast. His younger sister sat at the table, distracted between her cereal and a cartoon playing softly in the corner. "Don't forget your homework," his mother called out. "I won't," Daniel replied, already halfway out the door. It was a routine exchange, the kind that happens every day, so normal that no one ever imagines it could be the last. He walked down the familiar street, the cool morning air brushing lightly against his face. A neighbor's dog barked lazily. Somewhere, a car engine turned over. Everything felt safe, predictable. And yet, this would be the last time anyone saw Daniel Harris as he truly was. Before we go any further, if you're drawn to real stories like this, cases that stay with you long after they end, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because the deeper this story goes, the more unsettling it becomes. At exactly 7:42 a.m., a security camera captured Daniel walking down the street, head slightly lowered, backpack over one shoulder, completely unaware that this footage would later become one of the most important pieces of evidence in a case that would haunt an entire community. By 8:03 a.m., he reached the school gates. Students moved around him in clusters, laughing, talking, dragging themselves into another school day. A few noticed him. One friend waved. Daniel nodded back, quiet as usual, and walked inside. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious. Just another student arriving for class. But that ordinary moment would soon become the center of a mystery no one could explain. Inside the school, everything followed its usual rhythm. Attendance was called, chairs scraped against the floor, teachers began their lessons. Daniel's name was marked present. He had made it to class. For a while, nothing seemed wrong. But as the morning stretched on, something subtle began to shift. By mid-morning, no one could clearly remember seeing Daniel. At first, it didn't seem important. Students leave classrooms all the time. Bathroom breaks, errands, quick visits to the nurse. It was easy to assume he had stepped out. But then lunchtime came, and Daniel didn't show up. His friends noticed first. "Where's Daniel?" one of them asked, scanning the cafeteria. No one had seen him. Still, there was no panic. Not yet. Just confusion. Maybe he went home early. Maybe he wasn't feeling well. But when the final bell rang and Daniel still hadn't appeared, that confusion began to turn into something else. Something heavier. His mother arrived at the school that afternoon, expecting to see him waiting like always. But he wasn't there. She waited a few minutes, scanning the crowd of students as they left the building. Still, nothing. A small feeling of unease began to form. She walked into the school office. "I'm here to pick up Daniel," she said. The secretary looked up. "He should already be outside." "He's not." A pause. A quick call was made to his classroom. "Yes, he was here this morning," the teacher confirmed. "I marked him present." That was the moment everything changed. Because Daniel wasn't with his mother, and he wasn't in class. And suddenly, no one could say where he was. The school went into lockdown. Doors were secured. Hallways cleared. Teachers instructed to keep students inside as staff began searching every part of the building. Classrooms, storage rooms, closets, bathrooms. Nothing. Police arrived quickly, their presence turning concern into urgency. Officers spread out across the campus, retracing every possible path Daniel could have taken. Every corner was checked, every possibility considered. But there was no sign of him. It was as if he had simply vanished. Then came the surveillance footage. Investigators sat in a dimly lit room, watching hours of recordings, searching for anything out of place. There he was, Daniel walking into the school. Clear, undeniable. But after that, nothing. No footage of him leaving. Not through the front gate. Not through the back entrance. Nowhere. The school had limited exits, all covered by cameras. If Daniel had left, there should have been evidence. But there wasn't, which raised a terrifying possibility. What if he never left at all? Police began questioning everyone: teachers, students, staff. Most answers were uncertain. "I think I saw him earlier. Maybe he went to the bathroom. I'm not sure." Then one student said something that changed everything. "I saw him get called out of class." The investigator leaned forward. "Called out? By who?" "I don't know. Someone came to the door. They spoke to the teacher, and then Daniel left with them." "Was it a teacher?" The student shook their head. "I didn't recognize them." That one detail shifted the entire case. Because now, this wasn't just a disappearance, it was a possible abduction from inside the school, in broad daylight, surrounded by people. And no one noticed. Investigators went back to the footage. This time, they weren't just looking for Daniel. They were looking for anyone who didn't belong. That's when they saw him. A man, standing near the hallway outside Daniel's classroom. At first glance, he didn't seem unusual, just another adult in a school setting, but something about him stood out. He wasn't interacting with anyone. He wasn't teaching. He wasn't helping. He was just there, watching. The footage showed him more than once, appearing in different areas of the school, always alone, always lingering. And yet, no one could identify him. Teachers were shown his image, staff members were questioned, students were asked repeatedly. No one knew who he was. Even more disturbing, there was no record of him entering the building. No sign-in, no visitor badge, nothing. A sketch was released to the public. Tips flooded in. Some claimed they had seen a man matching the description near other schools. Others believed they recognized him from nearby areas. But every lead eventually fell apart. False sightings, mistaken identities, dead ends. Days turned into weeks. Search teams covered miles of land. Volunteers joined the effort. Posters with Daniel's face appeared everywhere. His family waited, hoping for any news, but none came. Weeks became months, and slowly, the case began to fade from headlines, but not from memory, because something about it didn't make sense. A child had entered a school, a place meant to be safe, and somehow, he disappeared without a trace. No evidence, no explanation, no closure. Years later, the case remains unsolved. The school still stands. Students still walk through those same gates every morning, unaware of what once happened there. Security has improved. Procedures are stricter. But none of that changes the question that still lingers. How does a child vanish from inside a school, in the middle of the day, without anyone seeing what happened? And the most unsettling part? The answer likely exists. It isn't gone. It isn't lost. It lives somewhere, in someone's memory. Because cases like this don't remain unsolved due to a lack of clues. They remain unsolved because someone, somewhere, knows the truth, and has chosen to stay silent. If stories like this stay with you, if they make you think, question, and see things differently, then this is exactly the kind of content you don't want to miss. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, and turn on notifications, because the next story might be even darker.